not?
Yes. Okay.
Okay, sorry everyone for the delay, we had some technical difficulties. If everyone would please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
To the flag.
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Like one of those singers.
Take those to Jerry next.
Now the singers do that.
It's hard to do it.
We have a couple of district announcements. The Troy High School Drama Club will be performing a spring cabaret this year. Due to the COVID-19 restrictions, the performances will be recorded and shared with families. Is that going to be put on the website too? Do you know?
Yes.
Okay. There are 4 Troy High School teams competing in the Olympics of the Visual Arts this year. Winners will be announced tomorrow. We wish them luck. Can't wait to find out what happens. Results, I should say. Public comment, there was no public input, so we'll move to Mr. Carmelo with his update.
So I'll give a quick COVID update. You've undoubtedly seen in the news, CDC has gotten rid of the mask mandate for outside and then most indoor activities. The governor, is that yesterday or Monday, said New York State will adopt that. It does not count schools, so we've gotten a lot of emails and calls over the last day or two wondering when our masks are going to be removed, and so schools were not included. I think it is still really good news, being out today and there's, going into places without masks. I think it's a step in the right direction. The numbers are still, I listened to Chief of Staff at Albany Med this morning. They're down to single digits, people in the hospital in Albany Med with COVID, and the numbers are just trending in the total right direction. Things are opening. If you listen to the governor, he's got plans for the Knicks and Nets, who are playing NBA playoff basketball, to have their arenas almost full. He's talking about by summertime having outdoor events all full. So I think it all leads to, I mean, again, our nothing has changed here in the district for this school year, but I think it bodes well for our plans. I remember last time we talked about the letter that 92 superintendents over 4 or 5 BOCES have sent to elected officials in SED and the Department of Health, asking for early guidance so we can properly prepare. I think this bodes well for that guidance being close to a normal opening in September. At least that's my wishful thinking. Our numbers in the district continue to go down, and in the area and in the state. That's all for that. No.
Thank you. Next we'll have Mr. Carmel and Dr. Watson with the plan for these federal stimulus funds.
So thank you very much. Do I have a...
I have it.
Click, I almost said clicker. Thank you. So thank you. It's actually during the budget time we said over and over again how it's an exciting time to be in education. It's an exciting time to be in Troy. For the first time, I mean, this is finishing my 8th year as superintendent and 16th in the district. And it's the first time in those, that's a lot of years, that we're actually having a problem is not the right word, but trying to figure out the best ways to spend money for our students at Troy. So it's really a great and exciting time for our students. So the plan for the federal stimulus money, this is really just a draft right now. There's a lot of still unknowns. There's a lot of things still being, the details are being worked out, but want to share with the board and get your input tonight to make sure we're moving in the right direction. This plan is officially due July 1st, and so, we have some time, but we're getting to that time where we have to finalize it. So Dr. Watson and I will present our ideas right now, and certainly welcome any comments or questions either at the end or as we're going along if you want to interrupt and ask. As we did with all the budget meetings, start with our mission statement that the Tri-City School District will provide a strong educational and social foundation to graduate all students college and career ready. And we did that all through every budget presentation and started again with this one because that's what we're really focused on right now. We want to make sure that that mission statement is a reality for all our students, and we're trying to put a plan together using these resources that we now have to make that so. I should say, I didn't say it at the start, and Mr. Mayor, you're probably going to say it at some point, but thank you to the voters, 82% approval rate on our budget. This money we're talking about tonight really is separate from that budget that was passed last night. That's a general federal stimulus aid slide. So it was $12 billion to schools across New York State with the 2 different stimulus packages. It was allocated based on Title I, which was good for a district like ours. And you see that next line, that number has changed. That's why it's in red. So all throughout the budget process, we've been talking about receiving an estimate of $15.5 million over the next 4 years. And I always put it through September 30th right now, but they're talking about extending it that 4th year. So 4 summers and 3 school years right now. But we just found out in the last day or two that money is actually even more than the 15.5. It looks like it's north of 22 million now, which is good news, obviously. But it ends up, being hard to spend that much money. But we'll find a way. It was treated as grants, so as I just said, not part of the general fund, not part of the $115 million that we just approved last night. And again, thank you to the voters for that. We talked about some guidance and some restrictions. But it's all things that we want to use this money for anyway. It's academic achievement and learning loss, it's social emotional needs and mental health issues, it's extensive summer programming, after school programming, and the like. I already said it's very exciting times. It's going to allow us to add significant program support and resources over the next 4 years. It is a one-time opportunity. We'll talk about that a little bit again at the end. We have to be mindful as we're adding these things to have a plan to also reduce them when this money goes away. This is not money that's intended to stay. It's money that's intended to help us, get kids back in the swing, kids and adults and families back in the swing after this difficult 15 months we've all been through. So it's not going to be forever money, so we have to be careful of that. And as I said before, plans are due by July 1st. So I'm going to turn it over. Huh?
You're going to have them in a few days already.
We're going to have them in this week if the board is happy with the stuff we have.
Really?
I mean, we're not going to turn them in because we got to do, we'll see at the end, we got to have a public comment, availability, and that kind of stuff. But, so I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Watson in a minute, but we broke it into 4 categories, and it was 4 priorities that really kind of guide all of our decisions we make in the district. So this money we thought should be no different. So it was, oh, I'm sorry, I jumped a slide in my head, didn't I? What did we do to determine these priorities that we're going to share with you? So it was extensive input from all the buildings, all the departments, every stakeholder group, and then we had follow-up discussions with the leaders. So, we got a bunch of input from, let's say a group of teachers, and then we talked to that principal and say, okay, here's the things, and kind of sorted out. Cabinet had 3 or 4 separate meetings, trying to sort out all the things that came in. There were really, really some great ideas. Some of them weren't even money related. They were just great ideas that we can do without the money. But it was, there were a lot of good things. Now, we certainly can't do them all, but we took them all and tried to make some tiers and try to make some judgments on, again, what would be best for students in this district. We examined student data that, like we always do. Remember, we used to have a board goal, and the only reason we got rid of that board goal based on data was because we use data for all of our decisions, and these were no different. We looked at achievement data and behavior and attendance data, and what can we add that would help improve those areas. And then our survey data, every year we put surveys out to districts and families and students and faculty and staff. And so what did that survey data tell us, and act accordingly. And then a careful analysis of all the building level and district comprehensive plans. So the district improvement committee at the district level, and we have it at each of the building levels. And so what have those plans entailed for things that our students need? And putting all of that together, we came up with this plan. And there's the priority areas that I started to talk about. So there's really 4 things. One is improving academic achievement, which is dealing with the learning loss that our kids have faced over the last year and a half. It's been so difficult. Improving equity and opportunities and outcome. We have a district equity committee that's going really well, and so we want to include that in our priority areas and make sure that all kids are getting all the opportunities that they deserve. Enhancing the delivery of social emotional supports, the mental health issues that we keep referring to for our students and our families and our staff, and addressing those. And then always a key for our district is developing the capacity of our leaders, teachers, and staff through proper and comprehensive professional development. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Watson at that point, and she goes through each of those areas.
Thank you very much. One of the things that I would just add to the 4 priority areas is that we sort of set these down on paper as a group, really brainstorming, looking carefully at the needs as they exist in Troy right now. And then what's interesting is that the guidance came out after we did this activity, and it said you can use the money to improve academic achievement, improve equity, deliver social emotional supports, and offer PD. So as you know, there were other things that they mentioned, but everything that we came up with was on the list of allowable and sort of smart ways to use the money right now. So that was encouraging. Under the improving academic achievement priority area, we talked about hiring 25 elementary and special education teachers. Most of the teachers that we're interviewing right now are multiply certified, so their credentials include, in many cases, elementary special ed and reading, or some literacy type certification. And really, the focus there is getting more elementary classroom teachers that we can push into rooms to co-teach with teachers, to share classes, to have more frequent small group and individualized targeted expert instruction daily in reading, writing, and mathematics to accelerate learning. So if I'm a 3rd grade teacher and I have a math class and I have math groups, so students are working in small groups for math, and maybe I see 12 groups over the course of a week with another adult in the room, now we can see 24 groups, which means kids can have more opportunities for small group math instruction, writing instruction, whatever it happens to be that we're teaching. We've given a little bit of flexibility at the building levels with how they're using that resource, but we're excited to hire 25 elementary teachers to our faculty. We also talked about hiring, and again, some of these are tentative, just ideas at this point. The coaching model in Troy has been hugely successful, and when we thought about what is it that we know that our data shows is making a difference in student achievement, some of the things that you might want to see weren't necessarily moving the needle as much as we wanted to. We have found that the instructional coach model, both for the 2 elementary instructional coaches that are working in all of our classrooms, as well as the 2 technology integration coaches that are working for the district, that their support embedded, working side by side with teachers, is contributing to bigger changes in instructional practice, which leads to improved student outcomes more than some of the other efforts that we tried. So we would like to expand, build on the success of the coaches to hire an early childhood coach. The focus of that person's work will be the pre-K to K transition. As we met with our groups, there was a lot of concern about the students who did not have any pre-K and are going to be entering into kindergarten without any kind of formal schooling at all, any kind of pre-K experience. And so knowing that there's going to need to be some additional support and teaching, and then also expanding the success of the instructional coaches to the middle school. So not just having 2 at each elementary school, but now having 2 instructional coaches at Troy Middle School. So that's really exciting. As an aside, we had a call from Greenville today asking us if we could share, one of the things they're thinking about doing is hiring instructional coaches, and they were kind of calling around and checking in with the BOCES in some different places, and people said, you should call Troy and find out about their model, because some of the folks who did visits to our classrooms really left really impressed with the instructional coaches. So that was a nice call. Mrs. Cloutier and I took that call today. We were on with Greenville for about 45 minutes and just said, here's some things that we would recommend, and they're looking to do something similar with their money. We also talked about expanding. We have a part-time art position, a part-time music position. One of them is like a .83, something like that. So really looking to make those full-time. We need and could use some additional art, music, and a library TA who would be a floater at the elementary level to assist with some of the library programming at the elementary level. So we thought that would also be a good use of some of the resources to improve academic achievement. We also talked about hiring 1 business teacher and 1 ELA teacher at Troy High School. Mr. Mariano would like to expand his business offerings, and also he's considering doing something flexible scheduling, like a double block for ELA, as he has done with math in the past, which has helped more students to gain high school credits and pass some of their required Regents exams, even though there aren't any this year, but we expect them to be back next year. The addition of a principal assistant at School 16, I don't know if you want to speak to this one, Mr. Carmel?
I've had several conversations with Dr. Ford. As the board's probably aware, 16 is the only school, elementary school that doesn't have them. He's always been against them. Not against them, but he's always felt like he didn't need one. I think he had that turnaround room where he had a TA in there, but in talking to him this year, and I think a lot of the COVID things, he got so busy with all the other stuff that was bogging him down, he ended up having to leave some meetings with Dr. Watson, like when she was meeting with the group, he had to leave some with me, because he had to go take care of the things. And so, I had a one-on-one with him. I said, listen, it doesn't make you any less of a leader or anything. So, I think he's finally on board that person is, I said, think about the other buildings. Those people are the ones that take care of these little things, and they're not little sometimes, but the management kind of stuff, so that you could be the instructional leader of the building. So I think that's going to be a good addition for School 16. They already have great achievement there, and I think this will take them to the next level. So looking forward to that position.
And then finally on that slide, we talked about extended school day support. So whether it's some type of after-school programming, a couple of the principals suggested Saturday sessions for students. They had been to a session at the Model Schools Conference where a district down south and a district out west were using Saturday sessions really effectively, and so they thought it would be a great opportunity to try something innovative like that. And then Strategies for Success is another type of after-school targeted program for students at the high school level. Moving into the work to improve equity and opportunities and outcomes. So as you know, there is a district-wide equity committee that is working very carefully to analyze a variety of data at this point, not just survey and perception data, but also student achievement data, behavioral data, attendance data, access to higher level courses, a variety of data measures, and looking to identify areas in the district where we can really make improvements. We haven't gotten into the discussion of our equity improvement cycles that are happening throughout the district in all of our schools and departments. But like most things in Troy, we feel like the best way to achieve really impactful work that is sustained over time is to support it at the building level, rather than saying, we're all going to do this. Really working with the leaders of each of our schools and departments to say, what makes sense for you? What are the needs right now? How can we support your building and moving forward? And so At some point, we'll get into the equity work that's happening at the building level, but we thought this would be a great opportunity to add some building-based equity liaisons. So when we have different initiatives in the district, whether it's technology, we will often have a tech liaison, one in each school, who sort of helps to lead the work in that school and then communicates up to the district technology piece. We have a homeless liaison in each school. So they sort of act as the school specialist and then again participate in the the efforts to support homeless students at the district level. So it would work similarly to that, where we would have equity liaisons who would communicate the work up to the district level and also let us know what they need to be impactful. So there's that piece. We also talked about hiring additional ENL teachers to allow, again, very similar to the elementary students that I mentioned on the first slide. This would allow for more small group and individualized expert instruction daily, more co-teaching opportunities. We are currently meeting all the requirements of the Commissioner's Regs, Part 154, which is what governs the number of minutes that English language learners receive. We're meeting all of those requirements, but this would give us a chance to provide even more, and our students could use it and would certainly benefit from it. So that's an exciting change, an exciting addition as well. The career opportunities and exploration, we've talked about this, I know, at the board level before, where we have students at the high school who are in the career exploration internship program, which has a new name and I always forget it, Career Exploratory Program, I think it's called now. Rose Gorman does a lot of that work, and it's a phenomenal program. And as Mr. Carmelo mentioned, when we look at our mission about making all kids college and career ready, we really want to look hard at how we can explore, career opportunities at all levels, starting in pre-K, kindergarten, all the way through. So making sure that it's not just small groups of kids who have access to those rich internships and work-based learning and job shadowing and all those great opportunities, but expanding that. And so we're not exactly sure what that would look like at this point, but we know that some resource in the area of expanding career experiences to all children. This is another one that came from multiple sources, not just the principal meetings, but also the Family Engagement Committee led by Maxine Brisport and the Social Emotional Development Learning Committee out of Donna Fitzgerald's office. They talked about the addition of family engagement support in non-Title I schools. So we have Title I parent engagement, family engagement coordinators. You approve them on the agenda every year. And they do a lot of work. They're paid through the grant. They do a lot of work. They have events for families, and which is great if the school is a Title I school. But we have School 16, School 18, and the high school, which are not. And so this would be some family engagement support to help remove barriers in some of those non-Title I schools. And then finally, expanding Summer Academy to include non-traditional summer school. So we are offering our traditional elementary and secondary summer school in person this summer. We're excited about that. We also have our extended school year for students who have a 12-month program on their IEP. We're excited about that as well. But we're also recommending some innovative, non-traditional summer school options. For example, we might have some groups of students who are getting counseling right now by a social worker or a school counselor. And we're proposing some of those sessions to go all summer long, where normally they would break and then kids would come back in the fall. We're talking about including those all summer. Some academic clubs, some other types of innovative, non-traditional summer options, including housing a modified program at school too, right in the neighborhood there. Moving on, the next area of need or priority area would be improving the delivery of social emotional supports. And I know you're hearing a lot about this one in the news and in other districts. And everybody is in competition for these people right now. I can tell you, I saw, I shouldn't even say, but I saw that some places are doing sign-on bonuses. Like, it's getting crazy out there.
Who's
But
but we would like to hire 6 social workers. Donna Fitzgerald has started. She's well into her first round. I think we have final round social work interviews. I don't even know. We have interviews every day. I think it's Monday. Is it Monday? I think they're Monday, the final rounds. Anyway, 6 social workers. She was excited about the candidate pool. We're thinking 2 of them with flexible scheduling, possibly outside the traditional day. And again, the idea would be, instead of pulling students from math class to go to counseling, providing some things in the evening so that when they show up to school in the morning, they're ready to learn and they're not having to go down the hall for their counseling. Also, some of the ways that we could do family counseling or things in the home to really assist the student and the whole family. So that's exciting to think about that. Again, the concerns about the students coming from pre-K or no pre-K right into kindergarten, you know, part of what you are, Donna Fitzgerald just texted me, yes, they're Monday. Part of what you're concerned about is, you know, we don't want to see kids coming into kindergarten and having huge numbers of kids referred for special education or recommended for retention, when really it's a matter of not having experience in pre-K. And so one of those social workers would focus on the early primary, possibly even just the transition pre-K to K, and then 3 social workers to support needs in our schools. And there were some principals who asked for some social work, additional social work time in their schools.
Donna, not to interrupt you,
Yeah.
but you know how exciting it is just to
I
hear
know.
you say the word social worker.
I know.
I mean, we went from 0 to this.
It's
0 social
unbelievable.
workers.
It's
This is
unbelievable.
so exciting, really.
Sure, but just a little.
12 or 13 at this.
It will,
Pretty sure.
no, it'll be
More
more
than
than
that.
that, because
Yeah.
we have at least one
I
in
mean,
each school.
we went
So
Some buildings have
from
2.
0 5 years
16,
ago.
I think.
Yeah.
I think we'd be around 16.
That's
which would be
awesome.
incredible.
That's
John Fitz
awesome.
will probably text me the actual
So
number
Yeah.
while we're talking.
And they are so needed in every
So
one of our
needed,
schools.
and so, and I like the idea of using them, you know, if we had Saturday sessions or, you know, really being flexible with how we can deliver that support to our students and families who need it. The safe room, this refers to the rooms at the middle school and high school. Rich Hurley has been really instrumental, as well as other people, in stocking rooms with food and snacks, and I think now they have refrigerators,
Clothing.
freezers.
Freezers.
What?
Clothing.
Clothing, yeah, and it's, she said, yes, it will be 16. It's,
Thank you for paying attention,
thank you,
Donna.
Donna Fitzgerald.
That's nice.
So the safe room is really a place where students can go for whatever they need. And we do our best right now to staff it with who's free and who, and like I mentioned, we have those McKinney-Vento, those homeless liaisons working in each of our schools. And so people are trying to do the best they can, but there are times where students go to those rooms and there's not an adult there and they're locked. And so staffing them with a TA at the middle school and a TA at the high school means that they would be open and available to students. Sometimes they come in for a snack, sometimes they come in to pick up some food for the weekend, sometimes they come in for, you know, a sweatshirt, whatever it happens to be. This would really go a long way to expand that. Yes?
Does this include our little friends at School 12? They have that room down there too. I don't know how manned that is, or how.
I think
staff
there's
is.
somebody always at school 12. I can't imagine there's a time where somebody needs something
Well,
there and there's not
if
an
you're
adult.
still in that wish list mode,
Yeah.
just slide that right in there for me, okay?
Okay. So I know that those 2 teaching assistants specifically were requested to staff the safe rooms.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. What?
Do you even need a TA for that?
Yeah, you
Do
need
you want
somebody
a
there
clerical?
just to keep control of the kids.
Well,
that
no,
are-
I know, but I mean, do you even need a TA for that?
What would
Maybe
you
a
have?
clerical person even, I mean, I don't know.
I'm not sure.
But anyway,
An adult there to
Yeah.
But
make
this
that
is
room
also
available.
very good for our homeless students too,
Exactly.
to go
I think that
where
would be
there's,
fun to
you
do.
know,
Yes.
great.
Continue and expand the re-engagement mentors, looking at the data to identify and build upon what has been successful. So The board has been amazing to approve the work of our faculty and staff members across the district, working to tutor our students, to mentor our students, to go on and check their portal and call students and say, you have 3 missing assignments, what do you need, how can I help you? And the principals are saying this is working, that they saw a big change from Q2 to Q3 in terms of students passing, handing their work in. It's not perfect, we don't have everybody doing it, but these re-engagement mentors have made a big difference for students. And so we want to look to build upon the areas where it really is working and see what are they doing, how is it working best, and how can we continue and expand that. Almost every single leader and every single committee and all the curriculum leaders and everyone I think that we met with to talk about this asked to create an attendance improvement specialist. Somebody who's going to help get those kids to school who just are not getting here and keeping them here the whole day. So that was really echoed over and over and over again, and you probably hear it on the news and read about it in the paper and see other districts are also struggling with this area. So chronic absenteeism is a big issue, especially when you're in a hybrid situation or a remote situation, and so creating somebody to really target that and help us to improve that is a good use of this money.
We've had a district attendance committee for the last 2 years, I think, that Dr. Ford and Aaron Cheevers, I think, co-facilitate, right?
Yeah.
And they meet regularly, I think monthly, to come up with ideas and to kind of review best practices in other districts and different research. So one of the things from that committee is what we got here. But, like Donna said, a lot of the principals were asking for the same.
You want to do the sweet bus?
Similar, it came up the same way, the Sweet Plus runs. So trying to figure out a way, there's very often times kids miss the bus and then tell the principal, or the parents tell the principal, well, now they're not coming the whole day because they can't get there. So talking about trying to, it's a little bit of a balance because you don't want to enable them to always be late either, but we want to be able to get rid of the barriers, as Dr. Watson has said a couple times now. And if one of the barriers is every time you miss the bus, now you're out for the whole day, then we could have a sweep go around and get kids that have made that initial miss. And then, if it becomes a chronic thing, we have to deal with that. And maybe with that attendance improvement specialist, those two things might work together to help kids get into school, because we can't help them academically, we can't help them with their mental health issues if they're not hearing from us.
And then my favorite slide of the whole presentation, second to the money that was on the first slide, is the one about PD. So developing the capacity of really every person who works in this district to be able to do their job, whatever it is, to the best of their ability, and to grow them and teach them and improve their work, including all of us and including the board as well. So this one is really about embedding more professional development for teachers. So we have our partnership with Teachers College. We're expanding that to the middle school. And we talked about, we have the staff developers right now for 10 days where they push into our classrooms. We talked about possibly asking for more days of that, where they go in and model for our teachers and co-teach with our teachers. And it's really a great model for PD because it's the staff developers coming in and working with our students and our teachers, like in the classroom where the rubber meets the road. So it's a really, really great model. Creating literacy and math summer boot camps for teachers. We're transitioning to a new mathematics program in the district. We're really excited about it. We're moving from Go Math to Eureka Math. Nicole McNeil and Jen DeMarco and a cadre of teachers from throughout the district had examined multiple core math programs, and they just made their recommendation last week that they would like us to move forward with Eureka. So it's a big change when you shift your core program like that. So there's going to need to be a ton of professional development for teachers this summer and really understanding what goes into that new program and how to teach it. So that's exciting. Judy Gawinski manages our teacher mentoring program. She does a phenomenal job. We have a year-long mentoring program, but we often find that we wish we could keep teachers on a little bit longer sometimes, maybe not. The first year is pretty extensive, where you have 10 professional forums, 1 a month, that go all year long. You have times where you're going into your mentor teacher's classroom, your mentor teacher's coming into your classroom, and then together you're visiting other classrooms. So it's a pretty intensive year. And then when that year's over, it's like, okay, great job, you've graduated, you get a little certificate, we have a nice ceremony at the end, and it's really great. But sometimes we feel like people could benefit from a little bit more. And so Judy has recommended that we expand that from 1 year to 3 years. Now, year 3 would not look the same as year 1, but we talked about extending out that support, kind of tiering it so that it gets less and less as you go on, but so that you still are working with teachers, because the tenure period is 4 years, so it would make sense to support them really through that whole time. And I put a bullet, because sometimes it sounds like the focus is teachers, but we have to include the leaders and all of our staff in the above work, so that we're all leading and supporting this work, so we're all moving in the right direction. We can't have the teachers go to a training, but the leaders aren't there, or the support staff aren't there, and then we're not on the same page. So making sure we're doing this great training and that leaders are involved so they can lead it in their buildings, and staff are involved so they can help to support and work together with the teachers to implement it to the best of our ability. And then finally, book studies and an opportunity to really enhance cultural competence. We're talking a lot about instructional equity. We're talking a lot about culturally responsive practices, expanding our classroom libraries to make sure that they represent all students and expose students to their own culture as well as cultures of other people, that we have multiple family structures represented, students from different backgrounds, a variety of human experiences represented in all of our classroom libraries. So that is also another area that we need to grow our skill set and background in. And then finally, before I turn it back to Mr. Carmelo, these are sort of, I don't know, they're sort of like oddball things that didn't fit under the priorities, but they really are important. I think the first time we put our ideas out, we said important but not included are, and then we listed some of these things. So safety equipment, we heard some of the principals say they need more radios in their building for people, maybe more cameras, panic buttons, I'm not sure how many of those we need. Some software upgrades, so a variety of safety equipment. It is a chance for us to look at what we have and to enhance that where we need to enhance it, or upgrade where we need to upgrade it. So there's that piece. Additional Chromebooks and hotspots. We did just order some, but the more that students are doing things remotely, even the students who are coming every day are still using Google Classroom and still doing a variety of things at home using the Chromebooks now that we're one-to-one. And so really making sure that we have hotspots so all students can have a connection in their home.
Even before the pandemic, we were talking about going one-to-one, and so, I mean, that certainly moved up the timeline faster than we were going to do, but, I said earlier in my other presentation that we hope to be back to some sense of normal in September. That doesn't mean we still don't need the Chromebooks and hotspots and the technology that we've been using.
And I will say, so as separate from Troy's part of the CARES stimulus, there's a lot of other programs that we're getting hit with every day. One of them is called the EBD program, which I can't remember what it's for, but it's electronic access to internet. And so essentially every student in Troy, or family I should say, is eligible for a credit through an internet provider. We're still working out every single detail. We've got to share data with numerous organizations, which is sensitive, and but at the end of the day, they be eligible. I believe it's like a $50 credit monthly.
$50 monthly, so we're working on a letter to go to people to explain all that. Yeah.
Right, and so we've already gotten a call from someone or an email, and so literally we got it like 2 or 3 days ago, and we're just being inundated because there's a lot of different funds and programs that are going to be part of this whole CARES Act.
For sure.
That's a great point. Thank you, Mr. Hotel. The new math series that we mentioned, Eureka Math, so it's a significant cost, substantial cost to purchase a new program for the district and also to train everyone in that. So that's a really nice one because that's not something, like once you buy that, you're pretty much done. So that's a good way to actually use some of this money. Similarly, Tara Higgins-Pascucci, who oversees, she's our curriculum leader for music. She has advocated for some new music hardware and software, aligned with some of the tech expansion at the high school to be able to have students use some of this new software to create their own music and digitize things and tweet things. You know, I don't even know everything that she wants to do, but there's some hardware that is available, and there's a way for kids to really create their own multimedia and music and share all of that. So she was super excited about it. She also talked about, she and Cindy DeDonna Drake for art, really expanding, I should have mentioned this when I said art as well, making those positions, those part-time positions full-time will allow them to offer more college level in the arts at the high school as well. And Cindy talked about, you know, they did a mini grant for some new equipment for art, which is why you don't see that on here, where they were able to get some new technology to really allow them to do digital art. And again, tying in with the tech wing, she thought it was going to be a chance for them to really add some electives and to have kids get some college credit for some really innovative and contemporary art and music. So that was exciting, expanding there. We also talked about, Aaron Shevers has been working with some of the high school people, Matt Robinson and Brad Casper and Martin Postransky.
Rose.
And Rose Gorman, thank you, excuse me. We have quite an interest in esports, so I don't know how familiar everyone is with esports, but it's basically where like your football teams compete with other schools in a football game. Students play video games and they compete with other schools in video games, and it's really growing and expanding all over, not just the country, the world, and there are scholarship opportunities at really, you know, prestigious colleges and universities for esports. And my son, who I told in middle school nobody ever pays anyone to play video games, is now making money on Twitch doing something similar. So I do think it's a, something, you know, it's an opportunity for kids who enjoy this kind of thing to be able to be competitive and to be able to have access to some of those scholarships and to have fun. Like it's a great idea. So I think we're thinking it's gonna run similar to maybe a club or Odyssey of the Mind or something like that, where you have different teams in different leagues where they compete. So they're really excited about it, and there's a large number of students who are participating in it already, where the adults are just doing it as a volunteer basis, and the kids are really having a great time and they love it. So that's exciting. And then intramurals at the elementary and middle school level is an idea that multiple groups also brought forward. So with that, I'll turn it back to Mr. Carmelo.
Thank you very much. So I do want to hear from the board if you have suggestions of other things or comments on the things we've talked about. The next steps for us.
I do.
Okay. You want to do it now, you mean? Oh, go ahead.
I love all this. It's exciting and stuff, but my only thing is what happens when the money's gone.
Okay, that's a great question.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's wonderful. I love it. I love everything about it. I love what you guys have done so far, because it's great. But like after those, what, 4 years, 5 years, something like that.
Yeah, so it's a great question, and it's one actually, I said, I think in the Friday report that we were on webinars, 2 different webinars regarding this, and it's certainly the guidance coming from NYSSBA and NSCIS and SED to be careful of that, right? The amount of money that we're getting, we have to really use staff. So I mean, we have some things that are one-time costs.
Sure.
Dr. Watson mentioned the math series,
Yep.
the technology we're buying, you know, things like that.
The PD.
The PD. But the people that we're doing, so we will, remember, the key is to try to get people caught up. So 4 years is a long time. If this was a one-year thing, it would be really hard to say, you know, it's 1 year and everybody else is gone. I think over those 4 years, I mean, we average, you know, between retirements and people leaving us for other reasons, you know, we lose between 10 and 20 teachers a year. So what we'll have to do is make a plan for, as these 4 years happen, as people leave, like we'll go back to the first slide, the 25 teachers. A lot of those teachers, different principals are using them for different things, but a lot of it's going to be co-teaching. So instead of a classroom of 18, we'll have the classroom of 18, but there'll be 2 adults in there now, right? And so when another teacher retires, that one adult, that one teacher can then go get her own classroom and replace that teacher who retires without hiring a new teacher. So we'll have to be really strategic and targeted as people leave our district. And these, so really the hirings are those 25, the social workers that we mentioned, you know, the coaches that are here. You know, we'll have to really be careful as the years go on to make a plan to reduce this aid. It should be the first question you ask Tom. It's the first thing that we're thinking of as we do it. All of that stuff we're talking about here, I mean, Adam did a quick, I mean, there's some stuff that we don't have the details yet, but just a quick thing here. I mean, he actually said 3, but I think we even overestimated. If it's $4 million, $5 million, we have 22 million. So
What's for that?
all of that stuff.
Oh,
Everything we presented tonight.
A lot of detail
Yeah.
has to go into this,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
just based on positions that we're talking about and,
So it's a lot of money, but it's
Well, it's not the
even
one-shot
close to.
stuff, like
No.
the new math program
Yeah.
and the PD and stuff like that. I know, it's, you know, we get it, we get this stuff for the district, and the money's gone. That's great, but it's,
Yeah, the positions will have to, you know, let's take the 6 social workers, for instance. You know, so as social workers leave us, you know, 6 might become 5 extra the following year, and then 4 extra the following year. I mean, you know, the pre-K 1 that we put, we have 2 pre-K things. We got an early childhood coach here for, like Donna said, that's a real key for kids that hadn't had real structured pre-K and did virtual or didn't do it at all. And then we have a social worker that's going to focus on those. Maybe as things get back to normal and the normal pre-K experience is back, we can wean that one off, right? So we'll have to keep track of it. We'll keep the board involved in those decisions and that conversation as we go along. You know, as we get to the end here, you'll see the last thing I think I wrote is the fiscal clip piece. There it is. So that's what that is, Tom. That's, you know, we have to make sure that we prepare and plan for when this funding is not there, and we'll do that. Yes, Tom.
The other thing that I would say is that this is a good time when we have this money to try some things and to see if they make a big difference, because we had one idea that we were thinking about including, and then we just learned, I think we were going to put it in the Friday report, but we just learned that we got a competitive grant for something else, and now we won't need to include that in here, we'll use that somewhere else. And so there are always competitive grants that we'll be applying for, and this will give us a chance to really be strong in our application for some of those. So we can say, look, we had social workers, we did some Saturday sessions, we saw tremendous gains, please fund our program, like beyond when this money is over. So it's a chance for Julie Curry, I mean, she does an amazing job in the grants office to really have some data about what is working and helping, and then use that to help us secure other funding sources down the road. Because this money won't last forever, but there will always be competitive grants or other school improvement grants or things that we can apply for. And I think if we try some innovative things and we get some data about the positive impacts that it's having, that will help us to get additional funding down the road.
And I think that's kind of what happened at school too. Remember,
Yeah.
for those that you were around, we had the $5 million grant over 3 or 4 years. And as that was going away, we sat with Julie and we sat with the team at school too. And a lot of those positions are still in our district, but paid for out of Title I and Title II and all those other grants, and special ed grant and things like that. So if things were working, we kept it and found other ways to fund it. I mean, we won't come up with $22 million again, but again, if this is 4 or 5 a year, and we can wean some of it off, and the stuff that's working, get other grants, or, you know, if stuff's really working, then we'll prioritize it in our general fund if that's where we have to go. But it certainly will be fresh on all of our minds the whole 4 years as we really use our data and see what's working, what's not working. And we'll have to, you know, I'll go to this because that's what was going to be part of that. So officially we have to have a public comment period, and we'll do that. We have to finalize these plans based on your input tonight and based on those public comments that we get. We'll submit it to the State Department by July 1st, but then those last two bullets are the key, right? We'll continuously monitor and review and analyze what's going on. So that'll happen throughout the year. It'll happen at the end of every year. I anticipate, and we don't know exactly how it's all going to work, the template is, the first template is out where you just kind of say you're going to be doing something, but then we'll have to figure out how to process this presentation into the template to submit it. But then I anticipate this time next year, kind of reporting to the board how things are working, what things are doing well, what things we're probably not going to continue. And then if we have other ideas that came up throughout the year, we might be adding something different. So it'll be a continuous evolving process throughout the 3 plus almost 4 years as we do it, and always keeping track of that last part to make sure we're planning for the next steps.
So then you have to submit something each year to
Yes.
SED?
Yeah.
And probably throughout the year.
Matt has a question.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. I had a question going back to the equity slide. You talked about equity officers in each building. Would that be like just an additional responsibility taken on by staff that are already there?
That's how.
Probably.
Yeah.
You know, Donna equated it a little bit like we have tech liaisons, we have homeless liaisons, and those right now, Matt, are people that are there. So, you know, the tech liaison might be one of the teachers who, after school or during the day on their free time, is the person that the teachers go to for technology questions. The homeless liaison is a lot of times either a counselor or the principal assistant or somebody else in the building who has additional duties that helps our McKinney-Vento students and families go through that. So we anticipate, and you know, a lot of the stuff we're still working out the details, Matt, so open to ideas if you have some, but you know, we're anticipating that being someone right now, somebody in the building who would get an extra stipend to be kind of the go-to person for equity, and then be part of the district equity committee, which I'm sure they're already on if they're going to be interested in a position like this, and you know, be the kind of go-to person in each building. Donna, is that what you think?
Yeah, I would say the same thing. So the district-wide equity committee will still be committed to their work, and there will be district things that we do as a committee and as the district leaders for equity. There's going to be a number of things that we will, and I know you're on that committee, Mr. Flowers, so there is going to be work that we do as district leaders. But what we find in terms of changing practice in the classroom, at the building, is to really focus on the work in that school and supporting that work. So for example, the equity improvement cycles that are happening across the district, I know, I'll just use School 18 for example. I know right now they are working hard to improve reading comprehension for Hispanic students, was one of their indicators that did not show equitable outcomes. And so they have really doubled down on strategies and ways to address that, and and they've been working on it all year, so that by the end of the year, they see a significant improvement in that particular inequitable outcome, if you will. And so the equity liaison would likely be somebody from School 18 who's on our district-wide committee, but also says, here's what we're doing, here's what we need, in addition to Ms. Dombito McPhee, who obviously is the leader in that school, but to really, you know, affect real change, you know, at the level that we're trying to get to, and sustain those changes over time. We have found it's more powerful when you function like that, rather than saying everybody's gonna do A, B, or C, but really looking individually and saying, what is an inequitable outcome in your area, whether you're the special ed director, a building principal, whatever you happen to be, a human resources director, And then how do we support you in making that outcome more equitable? And so that's where we're feeling holds the most promise for actual sustained changes over time. So that's why we ended, sort of arrived at that piece, which again is still in draft form, but I think that was our thinking.
So follow up on that would be, have we put any thought into hiring like a district equity officer that would kind of oversee, everyone that's doing the individual work in each building?
We have thought about it. We still could end up in there. Dr. Watson referenced a couple of grants that we've looked at, and so we're thinking about if it doesn't flow in this money, there's other possibilities of doing it. When we were doing it, because Dr. Watson and I and the committee, we think are really making good progress. So we ended up changing. We originally were really going to put it on there, and then we ended up changing the fact that we should run that committee and then have the building-based people like we just described. But we are certainly not done with our thinking on it, and if that's what the board wants, we can include that. Some districts, one of the things we were going back and forth, some districts have it as a certified administrator, and some districts have it kind of more as a, like management confidential kind of not certified person. Not that that matters as much. We'd have to kind of make decisions based on that too to get the right person in here. But certainly something we can talk about.
Yeah, I know that I've spoken to some leaders who are currently in a district-wide equity role, and there are some benefits of it, but I've listened as they've spoken to a level of frustration at being able to actually make changes. And so I think that I'm open to however we want to do it, but at the end of the day, we want the outcomes to improve and we want things to get better. And so I think that some of the frustration with a district level person is you can't be in every school and every department to the level that you need to be in order to kind of affect real change. So we don't want somebody just speaking about it and talking about it. We want to affect real changes in things. And so I think that was our rationale behind.
And I think to get that real change, we thought that Dr. Watson and I would have to be the ones that really lead that initiative. So it doesn't mean we're not going to get the support from the committee like you're on and these positions that we're talking about. But again, open to, we don't know whether we have all the answers at this point yet.
I mean, combined, it just sounds like a lot of time, a lot of thought, a lot of work went into all this. When do we see the kickoff of this?
It's already started.
Really?
They're already.
Yeah, the summer stuff is going to be great, that we're doing this summer already. And then, we're already hiring. There's people on the agenda tonight that we're hiring. Based on, we knew we had to hire some people anyway, but based on, we haven't hired them all because we needed to get this plan, but we've started that process of getting people in the mix and on the agenda. So, and this summer, there's some really great things that are going to be going on.
That's good.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
I'm concerned as Tom is that financially it will be a problem. I understand losing people as they retire and move on, but then you start to create those holes in the district. I'd like to see the data that supports each of these, that it wasn't just a wish list, which I'm not saying that it is. Some of it doesn't make that much sense to me. And then I'd like to see the budget as it restarted and the projections on how you see it all winding down at the end of the time. One of the things that I noticed about it is, like, we talk about equity, but one of the problems in Troy is there is not equity amongst the buildings. And yet, given this money, it's an opportunity to make it even more inequitable by focusing on, like, the non-Title I schools. So we're going to continue that pattern. And I don't think that that was what the intention of this was. I could be totally misreading it, but if I saw the logic behind those selections and knew that the schools that were Title I schools would be still be well enough off that it wouldn't be detrimental. But I hate to think that they could still use more improvement at the Title I schools rather than just give it to somebody else to make it equal, not equitable.
Yeah, I think it may have been misrepresented. We may have said it wrong, Stephanie, for you to think that there's certainly no focus on the non-Title I schools. The one piece where the non-Title I schools came up is because of the family engagement support. That's really the only spot that really came up, because those positions in the Title I schools are funded through Title I, and we don't have those same positions in the other schools. And so that's the only piece that was mentioned in. This is not,
The social worker, again, like, where is the need? It should be presented to show that it's not some intangible thing, but that it's not just make it equal.
I don't understand that at all. I don't understand what you mean.
I don't want to take, you know what, I don't want to send an email on it because there's a lot to still go through the agenda, and I'll make myself present at whatever public input sessions that you have. But I knew you would probably have some of the answers right off the bat.
yeah, and the budget stuff, I mean, that's stuff we have to hand into the state anyway, so we certainly can share that. We're not going to be able to know 3 years from now, and I don't think the state's even going to ask us as long as we're having some kind of general plan of what we're going to do. But we're not going to know what 3 or 4 years from now is going to look like. And listen, I get Tom's concern, I get your concern about the money at the end. I guess I would just ask, and I've asked myself, because I'm concerned about it too, what's the alternative? There's only so many instructional series and books and computers you can buy, and we have $22 million to spend over 4 years. So we really, not that I don't want to spend it on people, but we really don't have any choice anyway, because you can't, with all the things we presented tonight, as I said, we're looking at about $4 million. We still haven't even scratched the surface of the total money we have. So we don't really have a choice, and we want to have people in our buildings that are going to help our kids succeed. And if that success means it's for the next 4 years, and 4 years from now we have to say, okay, we got to find another way to do it. We might not be able to keep all of these things. We'll still have 4 great years for all of our students. And I'm not sure, and I think Tom's looking to move on here, but I'm not sure about your other question about the equity piece, because we have certainly focused this on all of our students and our neediest kids getting the support that they need. So if that didn't come across tonight, then that's on me. Go ahead, Dr.
Well, it's also on me, maybe. I just wanted to also add, Stephanie, that if you're feeling like we just pulled these things out of the sky, we didn't. So any resource that we looked at, we started with the needs of the students in all schools. So we did meet with all the principals, but in order to calculate the 25 teachers, I'll just give you one example, and I can certainly follow up with you separately, and we can provide all the data that you want to see. But to get to the 25 teachers, we looked at all of the students in Troy who are in different tiers. So how many of our students qualify for intensive intervention? Those students were multiplied by 5 sessions, because ideally they would get a session every day. The students who are in the strategic group were multiplied by 3 sessions, because ideally they would get 3 sessions a week, and then the enrichment students were multiplied by 1 session for getting 1 session per week. We added all that up and divided. So the 25 teachers are not, every school gets the same. The resource is deployed based on student need. What's interesting is that when Mr. Carmel met with all of the leaders separately and said, what is it that you think you need? They didn't necessarily have the formula that we used to figure out what the allocation would be. And it was actually perfectly aligned. Well, I could use 3 teachers for this, or I could use 2, and it lined up perfectly. So it was a nice confirmation that when you start with what the kids need and design it, and then you're talking with the leaders about what they feel would be best, and that aligns perfectly, we knew that we were in the right place. So we can certainly provide that to you. The same is true of the social work sessions, the students who are presenting with far greater needs, and trying to figure out what number of social workers. Again, we start from the needs of the students and the families. Some are presenting with extreme needs by not engaging at all, like completely disengaged, and what can we do to kind of remove their barriers, and it's tiered levels of support. So I don't want you to think we were like, oh, this many teachers. Like, it's all driven by the specific quantifiable needs of our students and our families. And so I'm happy to share any of that back up information if that would be helpful to you.
Somehow I knew you would have it.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Thank you for filling in with that.
You're welcome.
Can I just throw one more thing out there that that just popped in my head? Have we thought about like having an external equity audit of our district?
What do you mean, what kind of?
So, I mean, we developed like a questionnaire ourselves that we distributed amongst the districts. But, sometimes, especially with matters like this, it's good to have a fresh set of eyes take a look and say, hey, this is what we see, and something we can compare to what we've done already.
Are you talking about survey data, Matt?
Survey data, and I mean just an overall look at, what we might need to improve the equity situation of our district.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're doing that, maybe not as directly as you're saying, but with the professional development we have coming up this summer that we shared with the board a couple of weeks ago, with Dr. Howard coming in and doing his sessions. He meets with the leadership teams, and then he gives us feedback. I mean, again, as I said to the other one, I'm not opposed to that. I don't know of any groups that are out there that do actual equity audits and reviews, but I mean, we can look at it. Okay, that's the board wants.
Also at the state level, the state education department last week released our district comprehensive improvement plans that everybody has to write, the DSIP, which you probably have heard it referred to, and that includes an equity self-assessment that the district has to conduct of itself with some different metrics, and I'm happy to share that with you if you want, or let you have a look at some of what they're requiring. You might, I know you're on that state ed committee, so maybe you're familiar with that already, but that's new for district comprehensive planning this year. We'll be doing an equity audit.
Yeah, I would like that information. We actually have a meeting this Saturday morning, but I think we are covering some different topics, so I'd like that information to get it.
You got it.
Thank you.
So the last slide I think is just important. Sorry, Tom. Because we can't move on the story is what we always use, but the we part, and Dr. Watson referred to it, we have really been part of creating this. This was not Dr. Watson and myself. This was not the four of us in cabinet. This was the the district and all the groups being part of this. And again, we'll have some public comment period as well. So the we is really stressed in this. Thank you.
Does anyone have anything else? Other than people sitting at this table to the left of me.
Whoa.
That's your recruiter.
Thank you. Appreciate the time.
Thank you very much. Action items, canvas of votes.
No, it's on the agenda is publicly available.
All right, so I can say canvas of vote, motion for consent agenda item 1 as listed.
Second.
Any discussion? Under discussion, I'd like to congratulate Matt Flowers and Elizabeth on their re-election, and also welcome Donnie Miller. And I would also like to thank everyone in Troy for supporting our budget, passed by
82.7?
83%, and for the capital reserve proposition, 197 to 111 votes.
It was 81%.
81%. So thank you everyone out there who supported that for us and for everyone in the district. Does anyone else have another comment?
Just congratulations to everybody that won, and thank you for everybody that ran.
Any other discussion?
I'm excited for another 3 years.
Awesome. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Superintendent's recommendations, human resources, staff matters, unclassified, motion for consent agenda items 1 through 7.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Superintendent's recommendation, human resources, staff matters, classified, items 1 through 3.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Superintendent recommendations, business finance, motion for consent agenda items 1, 2, and 3.
Second.
Any discussion?
No, it's just good to see that we're moving forward with all of these contracts, so we'll have a busy summer,
Very busy.
very busy summer.
Yes, we will.
Is this all for, like,
This
different
is,
This is School 14 and the new Troy Community School. There will be another opening and I assume award for School 12.
Awesome. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Budget vote and election, number 1, appointment of election inspectors as listed.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Future meetings, our 2 meetings in June will both be here at Troy Middle School, both at 6:30. The one on June 2nd will be honoring our Troy retirees virtually, and on June 16th we'll be honoring our Troy honor graduates virtually also.
Joe,
Yeah, that's what his plan is. He'll come with his team and he'll have a slideshow.
Yeah, what's that? Our summer schedule will be all here at Troy Middle School. They'll all start at 6 p.m. July 7th, July 21st, August 4th, and August 18th. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to add before we adjourn? Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all. Have a great night.